something that you talk about a lot, which I love, is the productivity paradox, which is something I personally love when you talk about this, because it's basically like we think that if we work longer that we are accomplishing more. Whereas like, let's say you say, I have 2 hours to complete this task, like you will fill up those 2 hours, whereas the task could have probably only taken you an hour and now you've just wasted time. Where we think that if we're just like putting in the hours, that it's going to give us the effect of the results. But I want to hear your perspective on like productivity.
Yeah, I mean, I get more done in 2 hours now than I used to get done in 12 hours.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah.
And that is entirely driven by this idea of Parkinson's law, which just says that work expands to fill the time allotted for its completion. So it's exactly what you said. If I have 2 hours to do emails, it'll take me 2 hours to do the emails.
Yep.
If I set a 30-minute timer to do the emails, I'll get the emails done in 30 minutes. And that's just the way you work. So if you are going to sit and say like, okay, I have an 8-hour work day and I'm going to work for 8 hours, you're going to take whatever time, you're going to take that 8 hours to do some work. Yeah. If you force yourself to try to get that exact same work done in 2 hours, I can almost guarantee you will find a way to get the work done in 2 hours. That might mean that you develop some shortcuts for some of the things that used to take you longer, which is probably a good thing, and you end up spending the bulk of it on the things that really matter. But forcing yourself to like create constraints around what I would view as like lower value work that you have to do maybe is a really good way to drive productivity up. For me, like phone calls are an example of that. I really hate doing phone calls, mainly because I find them to be energy draining. I just feel dead. What I've done is I just block all of my phone calls into a specific window during the week. So like Thursday afternoons, I know that from 12 to 4 p.m. are going to be back-to-back phone calls, but they're not going to bleed out into any other time during my week. I'm just not going to schedule calls on other days. And doing things like that to your calendar is really effective. Functionally, just to like give you an actual tactic way to figure this out, I do something I called it my energy calendar. Basically, for a week, at the end of every single day, go in and color code your calendar from the day according to whether something was energy creating, you mark it green, energy neutral, like you felt fine after, that's yellow, and then energy draining, like you felt drained after, mark it red. At the end of the week, you can go and look at your calendar and see very clearly what were the things that created energy for you, what were the things that drained energy. And then your whole goal should be, how do I minimize the amount of time spent on energy draining things and maximize the amount of time spent on energy creating things in my life? How can I like batch and block those energy draining things into specific windows? And how can I amplify the things that are creating a ton of energy in my life? And the rationale is, if you can do that, you will start to fulfill your higher potential as, a professional in whatever areas you're focusing on. You'll start naturally working on the things that have higher leverage, that are driving greater outcomes, higher rewards in your life, whether they're personal or professional. And you'll start eliminating the things that are creating misery in your life. And for me, like phone calls was an example of that, but it could be anything. Like emails drive a lot of misery for me. So I need to figure out how to batch emails. I still have to do emails. I can't just not do them. But if I focus them into like a 30-minute block where I'm also listening to awesome music that I love while I do it or something, it makes it a little bit less miserable along the way.
Got it. Something that I fall into is I'm so conditioned of the 9 to 5, 8-hour block. And I'm an entrepreneur, so I get so much shame if I'm not like at my desk during that time. And it's like, who the fuck is carrying and this is also something you talk about, the spotlight effect. Like, it feels like people know that I'm not working at this exact time. And it's like, how the fuck do I get over that ingrained? I guess it's more just like a release of this limiting belief that like I have to be chained to my desk from these hours. But like I know myself, I'm really good in the morning. So like I wake up at like 5 a.m. and I'll do work from like 5 to 9. But like, I don't want to be chained by the number of hours I'm working. Like, I want to see it as quality rather than the quantity.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, fundamentally, it's like, it's releasing yourself from the feeling that the amount of input is what matters.
Yes.
What matters is the amount of output that you can create. And that means that what you should really care about is the amount of output per unit of input. So in a normal world, and in like the, industrial 9 to 5 assembly line that most of us think about when we think about work, everything is 1 to 1. You're like, okay, I do 1 unit of input and that creates 1 unit of output. And so if I want to create 10 units of output, I got to work 10 units of input.
Yes.
What you actually want to do is figure out, how can I do 1 unit of input and create 10 units of output? And then I can decide, do I want to just work for the 1 unit of input and like have that same output? Great. And then I can go hang out with my family and live my great life. Or am I like feeling crazy charged up and I'm going to do 10 units of input and it's going to be 100 units of output and go change the world and do whatever it is. But the point is that dislocating inputs and outputs is what allows you to make that decision.
Absolutely.
It's what allows you to choose. That only happens by identifying the highest leverage things that you can be working on.
Yeah.
Because if you're working on, some stupid thing that you could easily delegate, hire someone to do, hire someone to manage, you're always going to be stuck in that 1 to 1. It's only by figuring out what are those like higher leverage tasks where I'm the only person in the world or in my business that can do this thing. Yeah. And if I spent, rather than only like having this be 1% of my time, what if that thing was 100% of my time? How big would this business get if all I focus, with my newsletter is a perfect example. Once I realized that every hour of my time spent on like ops and like growth things and marketing funnels, every hour of my time spent on those things was hurting the ultimate goal of the newsletter reaching 1 billion people over the next 50 years of my life. All that I was really good at was writing the newsletter and thinking about the problems. And so I should be spending 100% of my time on that because that's the highest leverage thing for me. I can find someone who really excels at the things that I suck at. And then for them, they might have like that 1 to 10 relationship with the stuff where it's 1 to 1 for me.
Yeah.
And so then like you can create a cool map within your own company. If you're running a business, startup, whatever, where you're working on the things that are high leverage for you, you're delegating things that aren't. And for the person you're delegating it to, it's high leverage for them.
Yeah.
You like find yourself in this kind of like perfect happy medium.
Yeah.
We were just talking about this in the car.
Yeah.
Have you read the book? I haven't, but someone told me the premise, so I'm going to read it soon.
I like that.
10x your life.
Is that Grant Cardone?
No, it's, I don't know who, but they
He's
say
the big
it's
10x. Isn't he like the 10x guy? I always thought Grant Cardone was like the 10x guy.
Yeah,
but anyway.
you might be correct. But
I mean,
this
they might
book
have just.
isn't.
Yeah, I'm
this
sure
book's
he
not
sued
written
them
by
for
him.
this.
I don't think. Yeah, so that probably tracks.
Yeah.
It says that it's easier to 10x your life than 2x your life because 2x your life means you're just working twice as hard. 10x is doing the one input.
I didn't know this was a book. I read like an article or an essay on it once, and it's very good. It's super true.
Yeah, I'm trying to 10x my life right now.
Yeah. And it's. The cool thing about that idea is that it applies to every single thing you look at in your life. So once you like hear the framework, you probably don't even need to read the book.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think
you
I
could
need
probably read like a short essay on it to just get the idea that it's often much harder to 2x. Like it's harder to think about what are like the little incremental steps I can take from here to the next level than it is to figure out like, thinking about it in my own life, I'm like, okay, if my newsletter is currently reaching 1 million people and you're like, okay, well, how do I get it to 2 million? Well, I have to write hundreds of newsletters. There's like 1 million things that need to happen. What would I have to do to get it to 10 million in that same time period? That is going to unlock an entirely different set of solutions that you're going to have to come up with because the things that will get you to 2, it's not the same. It has to be some like massive asymmetric thing. Like I need to get on Good Morning America and talk about my newsletter, and then it needs to get picked up by Ellen DeGeneres. It's asymmetric. And so then you can think about, okay, well, how do I do that? Like what is the path? How would I end up actually acting on those things? It just unlocks you to create or think way more creatively about solutions in your life.
Asking better questions.
Yeah, asking better questions. Back to that. Yeah, totally.
Okay, what are just to close out, I want to do like very tactical things and habits or practices people can implement literally tomorrow.
What's it called? The fire thing?
Rapid fire?
Yeah, rapid fire.
Just one
fire thing.
One rapid fire question.
Yeah.
So I know you talk about grayscale on your phone. You talk about digital free, walks and things like that. What are some of those little things that people like tomorrow can start doing?
Ooh, okay. I'll give you a couple.
Okay.
I suck at journaling. Journaling has been one that I've like never been able to get myself to do until I started doing something that I call the 1-1-1 method. So every single day at the end of the day, take out a journal and write down one win from the day, one point of stress, anxiety, or tension, something that's stressing you out, and then one point of gratitude, something you feel grateful for. It takes literally like 2 to 5 minutes to do this. And it is the best way that I've ever found to start like building that muscle of reflection at the end of the day, because it forces you to recognize a good thing. So to the point of appreciation, you recognize something that you did. And that can be as small as I got up at the time that I said I was going to. I did the like 15-minute workout when I felt like crap. I, went on a great date with someone. Whatever that tiny win is, you write it down. Whatever the stress is, you get it off your mind and you write it down on the piece of paper. There's always something that you're like stressing about, and then you're sitting in bed. If you're like me, you're like sitting in bed and you can't sleep because it's just on your head. Writing it down is undefeated for being able to get it off your brain.
Yeah.
And then the point of gratitude. It's like something that you just felt grateful for, whatever it was, like that, the sounds or the smells outside in the spring or in the summer, the weather was warm, whatever that thing was. It just makes you feel incredible to finish the day. And it's like 2 to 5 minutes. Anyone can do it. No one can claim that they don't have time. And it gets you to start building that habit and that journaling practice that I think is so powerful for everyone's mental health. So that's one method. Another one that I've recently implemented that has been hugely helpful for me is like a 15-minute walk after lunch.
Yes.
I gotta start doing
We
that.
gotta do that.
I'm like the worst post-lunch lull, drowsy.
Same.
And I don't take naps, but like miserable post-lunch.
Same.
And
I didn't eat actually that much because of this interview, because I knew that if I actually ate a lunch,
we would be tired.
I'd be tired.
Yeah.
So I minimally ate.
Yeah. The walk completely cured it for me.
Wow.
So like eat lunch and then literally like as soon as you're done, like, drink your water or whatever and just go out for 10, 15 minutes walking, ideally with no phone, like no stimulus, just go out for a walk. And it's completely changed my life. I'm like, I come back and I'm like ready to rock whatever it is that I'm working on, whatever I'm focused on. It actually scientifically does help. It drives like digestive systems. You feel much better. Your energy, it gets sparked. So there's a reason scientifically that it works. Yeah. But it's so easy just as an actual action to just say like, oh, I'm going to go walk as soon as you get done.
That's a good one.
Another one that I love is schedule 25-minute meetings instead of 30-minute meetings and give yourself 5 minutes to reset in between things.
Yes.
There's something called attention residue, which is like the idea that there's like a cognitive switching cost to moving between things. And so like when you're in your next meeting, you're still thinking about the prior one and then you're thinking about the next one before the end of this one. And all of those tiny little switching things have basically the effect of creating a lag on your ability to be focused on the one at hand. And so just creating a tiny bit of separation reduces stress scientifically and just allows you to actually be present and listen in any given moment or any given meeting.
That's a good one.
Damn.
I'm gonna do all 3 of those.
All pretty easy to do and
So
implement.
easy.
Those are good.
You can start tomorrow. So
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the
Amazing.
walk.
yeah.